I hope everyone is doing well. This is the overview of module number 6. So we're going to be taking a look at Merrill, our textbook in chapters 5 and 7 this time, and we're going to really specifically examine those county health rankings and roadmaps. So we're going to take a dive into that resource, and I know we touched on it a little bit before in previous modules. So as we're getting prepared for your final synthesis, it's really important to, again, keep track of what you need to know for that synthesis because you're building those tools along the way. So be very diligent and very deliberate about how you take a look at county health rankings because it will help you as you're moving forward for your synthesis paper. So what we're going to take a look at in our chapters as far as reading, we're going to look at both descriptive and analytic epidemiology, and we're going to be looking at those factors in the case of descriptive epidemiology, the person, place, and time, looking through the lens of trends and really looking at the different types of trends, whether they would be secular, being long-term changes, or they're short-term or cyclic. All those factors are things to consider when we're examining data. And primarily, we take a look at those trends through our surveillance data, and very often in different areas of practice in healthcare, those may be QI related activities. And within public health, there is a very defined set of surveillance data that is gathered routinely, that's gathered at the local level, then transferred to the state level, and then to the national level and beyond. So that data is looked at trend-wise, both on the local level, at the state level, at the national level, and then world level to see if there's any emerging trends. And that's where you start hearing the news as far as what's going on in different areas and where they're seeing upticks or upsurges in some of the experiences. And we've seen that in the measles outbreaks that have been occurring as well. So just know that there are different levels that surveillance is examined and that everything connects. So what we're looking at is really being able to define what type of surveillance needs to occur, and really keeping that security blanket, so to speak, to identify when there's areas that need to have action. So what we're looking at is really an explanation for some of those trends. So just because there's a trend, that doesn't give us the whole picture, and that's the very strong beginning, and typically that's descriptive statistics. And then we need to go into analytical type analysis and looking at why those upticks occur. And that's a real important factor because we need to know why in order to develop those effective interventions to mitigate those risks. So just kind of keep that in mind, that descriptive is typically the beginning, and then from there additional information really needs to be gathered to really tease out the why behind those particular trends. So one thing that I really want you to focus in on when you're doing your readings is looking at those factors that impact bias, confounding, really look at the types of bias that are out there. And again, it gets into the fact of how the study is developed really can influence the outcome of the study. So it's really important to be able to, again, tease the information out to assure that you're making your decisions on the best possible information. Again, this is an invaluable tool as you move forward, not just in this class, but in your practice as well. So moving right along, there's the link to county health rankings and roadmaps. Again, Community Guide, this is the go-to place. This is very comparable to some of the systematic reviews such as the Cochrane reviews that we may be familiar with, but the Community Guide is a peer-reviewed, very intense review process and looking at the different types of community-based or population-based practice as far as projects and interventions to determine what is truly effective in, and going back to our terms of effectiveness, making sure that not only is it something that works in one particular area, we need to determine if a project or an intervention will be effective where we are and for the population that we serve. So just doing a quick flashback there, but the Community Guide is something that is peer-reviewed and goes through the same type of process as far as systematic reviews of the body of knowledge that's out there on a particular intervention. So this is a really valuable resource for you. And again, we're getting into the levels of evidence, and it's really important, again, to take that step back and look at the data that you're examining and what level of evidence is encased within whatever study you're looking at, or number of studies. And again, as we get the volume of studies that we can group together as the body of knowledge, if they're all basically having the same results, saying the same things, it's much stronger base to build decision making versus one particular very small study or a case study or something like that. But if you put all those together, if there's case studies and possibly some qualitative data, those types of things, and there's multitudes that say the same thing, that's a stronger base as well. So as we move on forward, let's take a look at our discussion board. So for this discussion board, I want you to take a look at something that is really of great interest to you and make it very meaningful and share that with your classmates. What we're going to really dive into is looking at a case control or cohort study from a scholarly peer-reviewed journal that addresses a health issue that you may see in your practice or something that is of interest to you. We're going to start teasing out the potential or real biases that you've identified in those studies and use those labels as far as the different types of bias, such as selection bias, in your post. And again, this is a tool that we're building on that will help you as you move forward into your final synthesis project. So use these pieces as building blocks for you to be successful as we move forward. And again, it's very important to have that skill set as you move forward in your practice to really determine those biases that may be contained within some of the studies that you're looking at. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to let me know. Thank you so much. Take care now.